Hello everyone, today we are back in the Update 1.79 dev server and we're going to have a look at the aircraft which are coming to the game in Update 1.79. Now the first thing to know from the American side of things is that there is an update to the model of the P40E1. As you can see here, it is loading content. Oh, it's loading my Thunder League skin, right, let's get rid of that. Which is the normal one it uses. How about this? So yeah, the model itself has been updated. This is basically because we are getting a bunch of P40s, or at least we're getting one, and why not update the model while you add them? So one of the P40s, or the P40 I should say, that they're adding is the P40F-10. Now this is an upgrade of the P40E we have in game. It has a slightly different engine, the Allison V171039 12-cylinder inline. When we look at the armor on this machine, we're only talking about bulletproof glass of 38mm and also some steel, so not a ton of it. It is at battle rating 3.0, so it is 0.3 higher than the E1, which makes sense. Basically, the way to see this is at low to mid altitude, it will be better than the E, so it will fit the meta better. So therefore it will be a higher BR. It has access to 650 cals in the form of these, as you can see here. So you have 1,686 rounds overall, plenty of rounds to be able to kill anything that you're going to come across, same as the normal P40E that we've had in the game for a very long time. If we look at the modifications, the main modifications to get are always going to be these ones for machines like this, and of course the default belts for the 12.7 is not very good at this level, so making sure to upgrade that and getting either universal or stealth as quick as you can is always useful. Moving on to the secondary weapons, 2 100-pounders, 1 500-pounder, or 1 500-pounder and 2 100s. So this will be useful in ground forces for that reason. The 50 cals themselves have good penetration on the ground belts. If you have a look at them, 26mm, and then on top of that with the bomb load of 2 100s and 1 500, this thing is going to be useful. Another thing to look at is the camouflages. Unfortunately it doesn't have one, so you're stuck with the mouth and the eyes, but overall I suppose a lot of people find that appealing. I would prefer to have just a general skin for myself. The next one is the FJ4B. Now this is a complete surprise to see in the game. So the FJ4B is a rank 5 battle rating 9.0 aircraft. If you want to find it on the tree, you will find it after the F3D1, which is one of the other new additions we had in the game. It has 20mm Browning Colt MK or Mark 12 Mod 3 cannons. So a bit of a mouthful. They're on the nose of the aircraft here, either side of the pilot themselves, 144 ammunition per cannon, so what you're looking at is 576 rounds. I'm definitely going to be test flying this aircraft just to see what it's like, but we have a decent sized engine on it for quite a heavy aircraft, and the reason why it's heavy is not just because of its size, but also because of the bomb loads that it gets. Now the issue with it is that it doesn't start off with any bomb loads, so you're going to have to grind them out through the tree, which, you know, for a lot of people won't be that much of an issue. But one of the big things which is going to impact its role, especially on the battlefield when we look at ground forces, is the amount of rockets that this thing has. So we're just going to gold our way through just to show you. Okay. Well then, that's very kind of you. That might be part of the content partnership program. So just letting you know that, yeah, I doubt you'll get something like that, but you might do. But anyway, so these are the modules which are going to be very important on the FJ4B. So the installation of 250s, 500s, 1000s, and 2000s, and then the Hydra 71s. So we're talking about 6 250s. If we have a look. Okay, stop throwing gold at me. you have them all mounted on hardpoints outside of the aircraft, and then if we have a look at the 6 500s, it's exactly the same hardpoints, and then if we look at the 2 1000s, you can see they're in the central ones, or the second central ones, and the hardpoints stay even if you don't have these on. So very similar to other aircraft that we've seen, such as the French. As you can see, they're still there even without you know, the the bombs and stuff, so that's why they are hard points. 2000, so in the same place. These are big bombs. Look at the size of these, they're absolutely huge. And then the big one, which I think a lot of more people are going to be interested in. These are the Hydras, the Hydra 70s. Now, what is important about these, you may ask? Well, the most important thing is there's 114 of them. So we're talking about a ridiculous number of Hydra rockets. Going to be incredibly fun to use, whether you're in ground forces or air forces. And I'll just show you here. So as you can see, the top flicks off, and then you just have an insane amount. They fire 2 at once, so that is something that you should note. But yeah, you just have a ridiculous amount of them. It's very similar to the SNEBs that you find on most French aircraft when we come to jets, or at least some of the French aircraft when we come to jets. And what is interesting is the fact that they have 290 millimeters of penetration. So at 9.0, these are, if this aircraft is allowed to go up and there's no radar-guided AA around the place, it's going to be an absolute menace to deal with when we look at it against tanks in ground forces. In air realistic, if it's left alone, it will be able to wipe a battlefield. And if we look at its ground target belts, the most penetration we're looking at is 33 millimeters on the 20, so nothing to really worry about from that end. But yeah, the Hydras are going to cause a few issues, I feel. Now, for the Germans, we have 3 new aircraft and also an addition. So this is the Bf-109Z, or Z, depending on where you're from. And this is a rank 3 battle rating 4.3 aircraft. Now, what was kind of interesting is when this was talked about and when it was advertised, it was a rank 4 vehicle, so I'm not sure if that is an issue or a problem that needs to be fixed, or if it is going to be rank 3, but take it with a pinch of salt. I apologize for that. Now, it is going 712 kilometers an hour. As you can see, it is basically 2 Bf-110Gs stuck together with the 605A engines. They did actually make the secondary cockpit a fuel tank, which is wonderful, because that's what it should be. But what is the big selling point of this is that it's got 430mm Mk108 cannons on it. So these are the same that you'll find on the Me-262s, and the big issue with them right now is the amount of damage they do in game. If that is buffed, which has been, they've said that they're going to fix them, so if that is done, this thing may become a terror to a lot of aircraft. I'm sure it'll get an air spawn because of its heaviness. Its rate of climb right now on its stat card is insane. Especially for how heavy this is. You've got to remember, this is about 3 times as heavy as a normal Bf-109G, but also it has 2 times the power. So overall, its power to weight is really off, or at least it should be. So looking at the stat card, that kind of worries me. I will definitely test flight it. I'll probably do a video by itself on it, just looking at the characteristics of it. But overall, this machine does worry me. It does get a 250 kilo bomb in the center, as you can see. No guns in the center, so convergence is going to be incredibly important. Armor values, just for the pilots, once again, 60mm, 10 and 8. And then, let's move on. So we have the Bf-109G2. Now, the Bf-109G2 is a new variation of the Bf-109 series of aircraft. So what we're going to have to do is show you some of the additions. One thing that is, well, not surprising, but one thing that has to be taken into account when we look at the Bf-110 series, a lot of them had add-on guns or add-on weaponry or add-on when it came to bombs or rockets, so that is something that I want to show to you guys and also show where the modifications are for you, so you know where to get them. You may already be looking at some of the numbers and being a little bit worried at what this thing's going to get. So it starts off with 2 30mm Mk108s. This is a 3.3 aircraft. I just want to point that out here. So it has 2 30mm Mk108s at 3.3. They're in the nose here, 135 ammo and 120. Then it's backed up by 750 rounds of MG151. This thing has a lot of firepower going for it through the front. Now that's not including all of the secondary weapons. Oh boy, look at them all. So we have an addition. What is this? Well, it's a 37. Look, it's now a mini duck. Isn't that a wonderful thing? And when we look at the 37mm, you can get armor piercing, which is going to give you 142mm of penetration with 66 rounds of ammunition. So this is going to be a great ground pounder and great in ground realistic as long as its flight characteristics are good. Now obviously, I'm not looking at the flight characteristics in this video. That will be for another one coming up. But yeah, so that is hopefully the first modification. Unfortunately, there's no writing here, so I can't tell which one's which, but just looking at where they are in the tree, I'm guessing that's the case. On top of this, what you can also get is an extra 2 20mm. So what we're getting is 4 20mm and 2 30mm. That is a lot of armaments for this machine. And as you can see, 2 here, 2 here, 2 here. Wonderful stuff. Now, the issue always with these types of aircraft is, can you get them on target? And with the BF-110, the C, which we had in game before, it has been renamed to the C7, but it is still the same aircraft with a slightly upgraded model, as you can see here. Oops, let's just put it on the normal camo. It has been upgraded in certain ways. I'll have a look at it at another time. But yeah, that aircraft is an incredibly maneuverable heavy fighter. So if this is anything different with the extra weight, then it still should be incredibly good. It also has a turret with two 7.92s on the back. It looks like it does have limited maneuverability though, which is going to be an issue. I'm looking forward to the first person view though of this G2. I think it'll be nice. Armor wise, well, as you can see, a decent amount of little armor here and there, meaning that its survivability against stuff like British 7.7s is going to go up dramatically. So against the British, I think it will have a little bit more of an advantage against other nations such as Americans, but overall the armor profile seems pretty standard with 58mm of bulletproof glass on the front. You have a two-man crew, of course the pilot and the gunner, but yeah, this thing, it's all going to be down to, can you get the guns on target for it to be effective. You can also carry some interesting weaponry. So the first one is, wait a second. Ah yes, here we go. So you have the WFR GR21 rockets on the side here. You can also equip them with the 37mm and the 220s. This is not, can I get the rockets or the extra guns? This is, I can get both. So that's always nice. These rockets themselves are generally quite inaccurate in game, unless they get changed, but they do 62mm of penetration, and the main thing is they have an explosive mass of 10 kilos, so they're going to do damage to whatever they hit. Convergence is an issue though, velocity is an issue. They are hard to hit. I would stick with the big gun in the center. The next one is another variant of the BF-110 F2. This one is much more of a conservative version, I think is the way to put it, since it only has bombs and none of the extra whiz-bangs. What you're looking at is 2 20mm alongside 4 7.92s, so similar to something you would find on like a Mosquito with the 420s, 477s, and it also gets access to, as you can see, some bomb loads, which is lovely, and a lot of researchable stuff. On top of this though, you may see another one of these modifications. What could it be this time for a secondary weapon? Well, we're going to find out, because something is definitely afoot with all of these secondary armaments in these BF-110s. As I said, there is a lot of them that could be, you could add stuff to them, and this one is exactly the same. You can add 220s with 200 rounds of ammunition on them. They are MG151s, so they're actually upgrades over the 20mm MGFF-Ms, which you have on standard on this machine, which are sat here, and then the MG151s are here, and then you have the 7.92s in the nose. What you're looking at is a battle rating of 3.0, rank 2. That might be a little bit high for this aircraft, but once again, it all depends on if you get the gun on target. This guy has actually opened his little area for the gun, so that's very kind of him. It basically means he'll have more maneuverability when he's trying to shoot stuff. And the engines themselves, we're looking at Daimler-Benz DB601Fs, which should be the same. No, these are 605Bs. Okay, so they're slightly different. This actually has more power, so that's why it has the higher battle rating, and also can carry the different secondary armaments. The secondary weapons, you can carry 12 RZ65s, and you will find them right here. Look how small they are. They are wonderful little things. These are air-to-air missiles, and they won't pen a lot, 4mm, but if they hit a target in the air, they're going to do a hell of a lot of damage. Very early school, rockets. This can also carry one 1000 and one 250. So what you may find is a lot of people will use this as kind of a bomber and then go from there and attack people in the air, which I think will work out pretty well for it. Another thing I need to point out before we move on from the Germans, if I can find it, here it is. We have to look at the grief. And the reason we have to look at the grief is because even though it's not a new aircraft, there has been something added to it. And what has been added to it? FX-1400s. Now, if you don't know what these are guided bombs. So, wait, is this the one I'm thinking of? Yes. Why is the third one not shown? For some reason, I can only see two, but there is definitely three. I don't think one's in the bomb bay. It should be out here. There might be an issue with the model itself. But yeah, you get access to three 1400 kilo FX bombs, which are basically guided bombs. Now, there is controls set up for them, as you can see, Fritz X ×3, that's what they're called in-game right now. And if we go to controls, we look at aircraft, I'm sure it'll be under weaponry somewhere. But basically, yeah, what will happen is you will be able to drop these and you should be able to guide them to a target. Now, depending on how useful that is or how good the aim is, we'll have to see. But overall, I'm very much looking forward to this. This is going to be something that I'll be testing on the dev server if I have time. But it's something to look out for in the future, especially when we think about other vehicles. For the Grief, it'll be useful. For other vehicles, it'll be incredibly useful. For the Soviets, we only get one new plane, and it is a jet, the IL-28SH. Now this is an interesting one. We have two 23mm on the front of it, but it gets an upgrade, and this is where the party really starts with this aircraft. So we're going to get all of these upgrades for you just to have a look and see what these modifications are about. So we want the rockets as well. Oh, come on, baby. Don't screw me like that. Let's get the engine upgrade, and then here we go. Here's the bombs and the rockets. So first of all, the rockets are new. We didn't get rockets on the other IL-28, so we get 192 SSK rockets, 150 millimeters of pen, and then you also get some with 80 millimeters, the S-24s. So the S-24s look like this, very modern, as you can see, the size of them. They look huge. They look basically like tiny Tims when it comes down to it. And then if we go to the other ones, the 192, well, yeah, you can see that this is very similar to what we're getting from the American plane and also from the French. This is a battle rating 8.0 vehicle, and I'll show you all the rockets firing off. The 23s are the same on the IL-28 as they are on this, the SH, but what is different is the secondary armaments, which seems to be a large feature with a lot of these aircraft and not something to be overlooked. What is kind of surprising right now is that there's no boosters on this aircraft to take off, but once again they fire at the same time, and it's just insane. They've also changed some of the gun sounds, so we'll get into that as well. But yeah, so many damn rockets in this patch, and hopefully radar guided AA can do its job. Otherwise, these machines are going to be mopping up the battlefield with you. But overall, after looking at the rockets, we can have a look at what these cannons are. So what are they? Well, they're more cannons. 23mm GSH-23-2s. And what you'll find is, I believe they use exactly the same ammunition types as the NR-23s. So you can basically just get more rounds if you're either trying to hit light targets or if you want to go aircraft mode and annihilate somebody. Also, there was a note in the preliminary patch notes that the tail gunner is disabled on this. And I believe that is a bug. So yeah, just to put that out there if you're testing it and you're wondering why it isn't working. But overall, this is a very similar aircraft. It might have slightly different engines. This has Kilmov VK1s with 2482, okay. And then this has... Yeah, so its engines are well, actually, no, they're not, because I've upgraded this. Yeah, so they're exactly the same engines. The main differences are, of course, the secondary armaments on this, which I think a lot of people are going to be incredibly... they're going to have a lot of fun using them. Unfortunately, Britain doesn't get anything new in the aircraft department, but I mean, we got 2 vehicles that I've been looking forward to for ages, so I'm very happy about that. The Japanese get 1 Key 32. Now, the Key 32 is this little guy, or big guy, depending on how you want to see it. It is a Rank 1 Battle Racing 1.7 bomber, light bomber, dive bomber, whatever you want to call it. They call it a light bomber, and that is because of the bombs that it has. It has 1 bomb modification. You start off with 9 50-kilogram bombs, and then you go up to 4 100-kilogram bombs. So not a crazy bomb load. You do get access to 135 rounds of 7.7. That's generally not going to do a lot, but maybe you can down 1 aircraft. The turret in the back, you actually have 2 guns on the back in a similar, well, you know, they're tied together, I think is the best way of putting it. 270, so the same ammunition size as the front. The engine itself is huge, even though it only puts out about 699 horsepower, and the gun itself is, I believe, slightly off-center. Where is the gun? Yeah, it's slightly off-center at the bottom. No? Where the hell is the gun? Is it not modeled in? Well, there is an offensive armament on the front of this aircraft. I know for a fact that that is, but I don't see it on the model. So this might just be me screwing up, or it might be somewhere else, but yeah, I don't see it. So I apologize for that. I know for a fact there's an offensive one, though, because it says it right there. So yeah, it might be in the nose. I mean, we could just check really quick. I'm not seeing anything, though. Interesting. So they might have forgotten about that, or I might just be crazy. One of the two. It could be either. But yeah, general modifications you want for this are these, and also the bomb load. Overall, it's going to be a get to the target and get out of there, and with 395 kilometers an hour, it's rank 1. You should be able to, if you get up-tiered. I mean, you're kind of screwed in this type of aircraft, but if you play at your tier, you should be okay overall. But I'm looking forward to this just because it's one of the lower tier stuff, and there is no armor protection on this vehicle, unfortunately. No extra armor, so you're going to have to rely on good old Gungadin up there to be able to keep you safe. When we look at Italy, Italy has 1 new aircraft. This is the RE2000GA. Actually, no, sorry, it has 2. The RE2000GA seems to be a ground attack version of the RE2000 that we have in the tree already. It has access to 2 50-kilogram bombs, 2 100-kilogram bombs, and when we compare it to the Series 1, it looks very, very similar. Same guns, same amount of ammunition, same general performance levels. The only real difference is the fact that it gets access to bombs. There must be something different to it, though, because otherwise why would they raise the BR by 0.3? I might be completely wrong on that. It may have a different engine. We have the Piaggio P11 BIS RC. Then we have the Series 1. We are looking at a very, very similar 4014. Yeah, it's exactly the same engine. So basically, the only difference I can see, and as I said, I might be wrong on this, is the fact that it can have bombs on it, which is kind of sad, but hopefully in the future we get some more Italians. On to more Italians, we have a Romanian plane, and as you can see, it's a pretty slender baby. This is the IAR 81C. This is a user-created model. Unfortunately, I can't tell you how much it is because Gaijin gave it to me on the dev server for free, so I can't see the price. It is premium though, rank 2, battle rating 3.0, so basically has a very similar battle rating to a lot of the aircraft that you'll see. And what you'll find is 2 20mm MG151s, and 2 7.62mm in the wings. So the 151s are going to be doing the majority of your killing, and with 350 rounds, that should be easily enough to bag 2, 3, 4 kills, depending on how you shoot. The issue I'm worried about here is the rate of climb of this machine, but then again, it is a machine which has quite a large engine on the front of it, with the IAR 14K4C32. So we're just going to have to see how this performs. This is another machine that I am going to test drive for you. Since it is a premium, I want to make sure that you know what you're going to be buying. Oil cooling system, and then some self-sealing fuel tanks, and then a little oil cooling system. So where you want to shoot this thing is straight in the center, making sure to either take out the pilot or the engine. Since this is quite a large engine, I'm guessing it'll get hit quite a lot, taking out oil or liquid or fuel quite easily, meaning that once it gets hit, it's going to struggle. But overall, it's a slender machine, so I'm guessing it should be quite maneuverable and also quite good in the dive. But as I said, gotta test it. If we look at modifications, it does have secondary weapons. It has access to even rockets. Once again, rockets being a large thing in this patch. And it can also take bombs and rockets at the same time, meaning that once Italian ground forces will come around, this thing will be at least useful in it. So you can run it right now with the Leoncello if you feel like it, or you can run it by yourself in Air Arcade or Air Realistic. A nice little aircraft, which was once again created by another content creator, which is always nice to see. The last but not least faction is France, and they get access to 3 new French planes. The first one is the F4U7, a American-built French plane, which only the French use, so it does make sense that it's in this tree. It has access to 4 20mm AN-M3s, so very similar to what you'll find on the Bearcat F8 F1B, and I believe, I'll just check that because I don't want to misconstrue. I know for a fact, yeah, they're the same ones on the Tiger Cats and also on the 1B, so yes, they are exactly the same as those. What you're getting here is a upgraded F4U4B, which is much more designed around the ground attack role, has a lot of power behind it. Rate of climb isn't great, but then again, it's a Corsair in War Thunder. The default belts are very good on the M3s, which make them really useful. But the main thing is the secondary weapons once again. The secondary weapons of these machines are the things that you really have to look for, since those are the things that's been touted the most in the dev blogs and also in general streams and what people are looking forward to. And as looking through a lot of these aircraft, as I said, there's a massive importance on secondary weapons, and this thing is no different. So a lot of aircraft which are going to be useful, not just in air realistic, but also in ground realistic, making them multi-role, making them a hell of a lot better. It is 6.0 though, so it is higher than the AD4. So take that with what you want. I'm kind of surprised by that since it's before the AD4 and also before the Bearcats. But yeah, this part of the American-French tree is a little bit screwed up. Armor-wise, we have no armor on the vehicle apart from around the cockpit and just above it as well. So 3mm, 38, and some steel on the back as well. Modifications, what everybody has been looking forward to is these SNEB rockets, because once again there's 114 of them, but also you get access to T10 151s with 450mm of penetration, and then you get some with 30, so these are basically your smaller, your HE ones, and these are your AP ones. Then you got the HVARs, and then you got the SNEBs. So the T10s look like this. They're very nice rockets, exactly the same as the ones that you find on the AD4. And then on top of that, you get the SNEBs. The SNEBs are the stuff which people are going to look to. Now, as you can see, it hits the stats quite hard, but you have 114 rockets, and you spawn in the air in ground realistic. So if you spawn in the air, and you have all of these rockets, then you're going to be able to do a hell of a lot of damage, which is going to be fun. It's going to work really well with a 6.0 lineup as well, so if you run something like the AMX M4, AMX 13 and CA Lorraine, you can expect this, which will be nice. The French also get an Italian-American F-84, so this is the F-84 G26RE. This is the same vehicle, I believe. I might be wrong on this, I apologize if I am, but this is the same vehicle you will find in the Italian tree, which is right here. It's the 21 actually, and this is the 26. They might be slightly different, but they're mainly going to be the same. And then in the American tree, you also have the 21. So this might be a slightly better version, but overall, to me, it's the same machine. It's going to fill the same part of the battlefield, and therefore it doesn't really need discussing. The Leo 451 late. Now, we already have the early in game. The late has a 7.5mm Mac machine gun on the front of it, which is nice to see. Gives you a little bit of leeway with the bomber. You also have a 20mm Hispano on the back of it, but it only has 120 rounds, and it is a 404, so probably the worst Hispano in game. On top of this, you have the two front guns, which are pretty useless for defending yourself, and you also have another turret, which I can't find right now. Let's see, you have one here, you have one here, stabbing this guy right in the back. You have the big one here. You may have one on the front somewhere, or it may just be... no, it's just me being an idiot. So there's there's a Hispano turret here, then there's three 7.5mm. This might be wrong, but according to the stat sheet, there's three 7.5mm, and then the turret looking backwards. So for me, there's only one looking forward, which is this one. I may have missed some, but I don't see any, unless they're on the wings themselves, and I don't see any on the wings. The main thing about the Leo is obviously its bomb load, being a bomber, so we have 1650s, 7 100s, 6 200s, 1 100, and then 2 500s, 1 100, and 4 200s. So a decent enough bomb load for the Leo 451. I believe one of the issues I had with the Leo early was the fact that its bomb loads were not very good, and now they're okay. They're exactly the same as the other one, so it may have been this one I had the issue with. I'll just make sure. Yes, it was the MB174. So the Leo, I personally actually thought was a pretty good aircraft. The only issue was the fact that it couldn't really defend itself. So if somebody found you, you had to run. I'm sure it'll be the same with the late version. If we have a look at the differences, generally the differences are stuff like the engines. So we'll just have a look at the early. Nope, it looks like they're the same. I'm sure there is a difference. It says the two machine guns, but I just don't see them. Once again, I might just be blind, so if I am blind, that's completely fine. Please correct me in the comments themselves. But yeah, that is all the new aircraft that are coming in updates 1.79, or at least the ones which are on the dev server right now. There is a massive emphasis on secondary weapons in this, and also some higher tier bruisers, such as the FJ4B, the IL-28, and also the F4U7. It's going to be incredibly fun. I'll see you next time.